Welcome, everyone. We are live from ChannelCon 2025 here in Nashville. And as you can see, we're between the ferns today from the Amazon rainforest inside of the Opry Resort in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Mike, your host. This is the Managed Service Provider Association of America podcast. We've been here since Monday, talking to managed service providers, listening to the presentations, talking to other vendors about what's hot on the scene at the first ever GTIA ChannelCon. So let's break down some fun takeaways from this year's ChannelCon. If any of you have been to the previous ChannelCons, you'll know that the bread and butter are the advisory committee meetings and the educational sessions where thought leaders are breaking down what's on their minds and the cutting edge for the few hundred MSPs that show up. And then intermixed in between that is some fantastic food, some Tennessee cooking, and the technology vendor fair, where like 200 or some odd vendors are coming here to meet with MSPs and show them what's new and hot. I've been here with the rest of the MSPAA team talking to MSPs, interviewing them, and seeing great people like Ann Westerham, who just walked by. Between the ferns, we're live, Ann. So that's the fun thing about coming to these events, is you get to meet and greet people. I would honestly say the number one reason to come to a networking event like this is the networking. I know that's a shocker, but we all talk to each other either like on LinkedIn or Zoom calls or team calls, and it's rare these days that we get to make human connections. And just like Ann walked past, and we'll link her in the comments, and we bumped into each other and we had breakfast together yesterday, that's really the main value of coming all the way across the country and grinding through the sweltering humidity in Nashville, I must say, for my Canadian blood, and meeting people in person. So if you're thinking about it next year, keep it on the list, because this is one of those milestone events throughout the year for MSPs to come and just talk to each other in a peer group community. Now, let's talk about some of the interviews we did. So last night, we had the pleasure of talking to a small team MSP, but huge reach from Manhattan. So you'll see that come out. It was yesterday live, and we'll repost it. Emil from eTech7. He's in Manhattan. He has cracked past the $1 million per year revenue, which is a huge milestone for many MSPs. Market stats say that like 80% of MSPs are below the $1 million per year. So it's a great accomplishment to be in that top 20%. And we talked to Emil about what he has done to get past that, and importantly, what he stops doing now that he's past the $1 million mark that he was doing before. And a lot of his focus was on stepping away from the tech tasks. When he started, it was him, solo. Someone asked him to fix a computer when he was 18 years old, and a business started from there. This story must be familiar with many of you, because I hear it a lot. So that was Emil's starting point. But as he transitioned from being a technician to a business owner, he realized the value in writing down his processes, SOPs, and then delegating them to his tech team. His first 4 hires were technicians, so that he could focus all of his time on growing the business, because that's our number one jobs as business owners, is to never run out of money. And then we can use that money to have our team deliver value to our clients. So that was a huge interview with Emil, and he dropped a ton of tidbits. You have seen that on our MSPAA live event site, and we'll repost clips again from it. This morning, I had a great opportunity to interview a young vendor. She's 20. Geez, I wish I could roll back the clock to be 20 again. Reese Tuttle from AP2T. She's got a great founder brand story. She's bringing some hot new stuff to the cyber awareness training theme. And she's approaching it in a hot way, because she's really focusing on not necessarily the outcome of educating the clients, because many people can do that. I mean, you can do that with webinars, many ways to educate your clients and their employees. But she's focusing on reducing the delay in effort to educate the clients, making it easier for the MSPs to deliver the education, because that's really where we all stub our toes. Is there are many great tools to do whatever we want it to do, but the reason we don't do it is because it takes too much time and takes too much effort. So she's trying to reduce the denominator in the value equation so that delay in effort equals 0. We've probably interviewed like a dozen MSPs at this point. We're going to keep doing it today. Hot takeaways from the sessions. It won't surprise you for me to drop the buzzword that AI is on a lot of people's minds. That's why they're coming to ChannelCon, to learn what other people are doing. That has been an interesting topic of discussion. There's obviously a ton of hype around AI because people want to, going back to the value equation, reduce delay and effort in every aspect of their business. MSPs do a lot of tedious tasks. The technicians do a lot of tedious tasks, a lot of documentation, which is tedious. It has value, but the delay and effort usually wins that battle, and you end up not doing it and then missing out on the educational value or the recursive learning that you would get from looking at the technician's notes. So that's been a topic of discussion, trying to figure out where the hype train ends. And a lot of the thought leaders are doing great work by showing explicitly, here's a use case. For example, there was a conversation about, here's a use case where you can the technician talks out the ticket notes, and the AI does the voice recognition to log them in the PSA tool. Just like the meeting note takers, but like hyped up and specifically tailored so that the technicians have a zipless way of getting their intel into the documentation system. That is great because it's a very crystal clear use case. Me personally, I'm always like, I love using AI. I would love to use it more, but I am always itching for like the crystal clear use case so I can just like pay for it and do it. And that was a good example. And you hear that sprinkled throughout like the lunch conversations, the breakfast conversations, and the organized sessions. There have been panels on how to operationalize AI. There have been panels on these lift-lead tools for marketing. That's a common use case. But really, what you'll see from coming to the event is like the little buzz conversations in lunch and breakfast. This is where like the hot tidbits are dropped. Now, let's talk about something fun. For many of you that have listed my material before, you'll know that I chase the problem. The better we know the problem, the better we can solve it for our clients. At the MSPAA, we're trying to fit in the nexus between a peer group of MSPs built by an MSP. Our president, Dave, still runs an MSP. Like, he's not full-time MSPAA president, he's full-time MSP. So we're trying to fit the nexus between the minds of the MSP and the peer group and all the problems that they have. And then at the technology vendor fair, there's vendors with solutions. So when we were doing interviews yesterday, we were interviewing a vendor trying to chase down like what specific problem they solve for the MSPs. Because a lot of times vendors are going to be talking about what solutions they deliver. Hold on, we're live and I got to make sure my battery doesn't run out. A lot of times the vendors will talk about what solutions they deliver. No one cares about the solutions you deliver, they care of the problems you solve. So what we're floating around, and this is cutting edge material because we're live between the ferns, MSPA is floating around to try and create some sort of like focus group where we can bring together managed service providers that have the mindset to be those early adopters, and then bring in a vendor at a time to do like a little focus group panel, not for pitching. You know me, I hate the sales pitch. I don't want any sales pitch. I want the vendor to come and use these MSPs to really understand their problem. Like, the number one question is this a problem you care about? And if so, why haven't you solved it before? That can be the lead-off question for these type of focus groups. And then we rely on the knowledge of the MSPs to really tell us honestly, why haven't they solved it before? Or how have they tried to solve it before and why has that not worked? Or is this a problem you care about? Because the answer may be no. And that's gold material to tell the vendors so that they can just find the bigger problem to solve. And that's the job of the vendors. Like, the solution needs to solve a problem. And so that's what we're kind of chasing here at the MSPAA, is bringing together the brain trust of the MSPs in a, like, no sales pitch, no sales fluff, anything, but put them together with the vendors that are passionate about solving problems, and then giving them the opportunity to have a genuine conversation with that MSP to learn about the problem. Because in a sales call, you never get honest feedback. You just get a ghost hang-up. But if we can create this, like, say, focus group space where the MSPs can give genuine feedback with moderation, you know, like, we'll have a moderator to make sure we ask the right questions, vendors can get some serious value. Because the better you know the problem, the better you can solve it. And ye shall know thy problems, and thy problems will set you free. That's going to be on my t-shirt next year. Anyways, That's the scoop of what's going on. There's a ton of talk about AI. We're learning some hot use cases like that speak out the voice tech notes. That one hot right into the PSA. We had a beautiful keynote this morning about aggressive compassion in leadership. That's one great. There's going to be notes about that from the ChannelCon team. And we're here with the MSPAA interviewing MSPs, getting their founder brand voice out there, and then sprinkling in some vendors so we can learn about what's hot and cool. I'm Mike, your host from the MSPAA podcast. We're live between the ferns here in Nashville, Tennessee at ChannelCon 2025. Thanks for joining. Stay tuned for more clips, and hopefully we'll see you at the next event.